Okay, so good evening, and I think it's good evening also for you, or it's good afternoon for you.
If
Uh,
you have to ask an Aussie, it'll be like good night because it's
Absolutely,
7:40.
yeah, yes. So thank you, Kanika, for coming on to this event. Before we get started, let me introduce you to the audience. So good evening, good night, good afternoon, whichever world you are in, guys. You've been listening to a lot of leaders over the last 2 months who have come on this event, leaders and libraries, people from the business, people from the HR, learning and development, organization development, coaches, talking about multiple books that has impacted their lives in helping them to become the better leader that they are today. And today we have one more person, Kanika Pandey, Vice President Asia Pacific at Applitools, joining us all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Now, what inspired me to call her, talk to her, though she was not an HR person, not an OD person, not a learning and development person, was the powerful weightlifting videos that she had posted on LinkedIn, and she calls it strength based transformation. And I thought this was fabulous. I thought, wow, there's a lady who is actually lifting kgs and kgs on her shoulders, and she's talking about transforming yourself. I said I definitely need to have her as a guest. So she's somebody who's into health, a health freak, an avid book reader, a traveler, and 15 plus years of experience in the digital public technology domain. I don't understand anything beyond that. So, guys, for knowing more, please go to her page and understand that. Right? It's a pleasure to have you, Kanika. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation and joining the force.
No, thank you so much. Rajiv, I should thank you because the process of, working through today's plan that we have actually made me reflect a lot. And I think reflection is a very important attribute any leader
Right.
needs to have. And it gave me a lot of, insights into my own soul searching and journey that I have had. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I looked at the group of people that you have invited, so I absolutely feel privileged. So it's I would thank my weightlifting videos and the people who helped me create those videos, that you could spot me in the crowd.
Well, people who stand out get spotted any which way. So let me straight away jump into the first question. I'm all excited to have this conversation. Books and Kanika. How old, how long, how far has this relationship and romance been? Tell us about that.
See, growing up in India, books were a part of the education cycle. So let's put it this way, right? And my motivation to go to anything outside the curriculum at that time was to not read anything that gives me knowledge because there was already a lot of knowledge around. So I did love reading a lot of fiction when I was growing up, So I was always fond of reading and picking up any sort of book, but I would just stay away from anything that has got will give me wisdom. So it would just take me to a different world, and that is all I wanted. The last couple of years, and I would say 5 years in precise, where um, I had one goal, one motivation. I
Hmm.
really wanted to shape myself as a leader.
Hmm.
I really fell in love with books like the leadership books, really meaningful books, and there are plenty of them around. I think you've
Yeah.
picked about 25 out of the sea that is available, um, that I just fell in love with. Like today they are this romance of maybe 5 years old with some of the really classic books that I probably
Lovely.
read many times.
Right.
Has just helped me be the person and the leader who I am. I owe everything to the good food that my mother made me eat and the good books I read in the last couple of years.
Fantastic. You should join the Kindle. I do not know if you're part of that. If you're not, please pick up a Kindle, join the Goodreads community. You'll have one more good
I
thing then.
Yes, I am. I am.
Lovely, lovely. So,
I do love a physical copy, and I'm sure that a lot of people must have shared this with you. But
yes, yes, yes.
nothing like the feeling of the book, and
We love the
especially when
book.
you're
We
turning,
love the smell of the book.
yeah, like when you're turning the last pages of your favorite book, and I have a legacy over here, which is a book about All Blacks. Is one of my favorite books, and when you get to like the last pages, you actually get a little emotional because the book is getting over and you
Yeah.
don't vacuum on what you're going to read. So that's my relationship, and that's how I really owe a lot of personal the evolution of Kanika. And the book we have chosen to talk about today is all about evolution. It's all about
Absolutely.
how our operating systems in of the humankind keep
True, true,
evolving.
true,
And
true.
how do you evolve your operating system? You can either watch a lot of television, and then your thinking and your experience would be inferred from that, or you can read a lot of books.
Absolutely. Superb. So now that you have started reading insightful, heavy books for the last 5 years, tell me, Kanika, how has this new reader in you in the last 5 years, I'm just using new for
Of
space of
course,
time,
of course.
contributed towards the new evolved and the new leader that Kanika is? How has the reader contributed to the leader?
Yeah. So let's just start with what leaders constantly need to do, right? In
Right.
my view, leaders need to exercise their brain a lot.
True.
They need to constantly be challenged with into different situations, into different
Correct.
circumstances, and books help you train your mind for different situations.
Hmm.
So one of the first things when I started stepping into more leadership roles that I struggled with is different leadership challenges, including
Yeah.
successes and failures.
Yeah.
The behavioral responses to that
Hmm.
are all driven by your conditioning. And I
True.
was a very sore loser. I
Hmm.
would hate losing growing up.
Hmm.
And I would look for any excuse to throw the loss at anyone. And I give you an example. I read a book called Extreme Ownership.
Hmm.
It's a fantastic book, and it teaches you how to, as a leader, own every outcome. In fact, it gives you great examples of leaders and their behaviors where they own everything, although someone in their team may have stuffed up. So it's that bit, Rajiv, the
Yeah.
training of your brain
Yeah.
to do things differently than what you have probably been conditioned for or
I
what you have
agree.
seen. The second bit I'll tell you is being able to read experiences of others. Like I'll give you the recent example is Michelle Obama recently wrote a
Yeah.
very beautiful book called Becoming, right? Reading the chapters almost reminded me of the girl who grew up in Dehradun and saw her struggles to move all the way to Australia. And it's how do you become who you are and how do you own yourself? And some of the things that she says over there which resonate and they help you. So I
True.
think you can find leaders and you can relate to them, right? That
Absolutely.
gives you confidence in your own decisions and your own journey, because
Absolutely.
sometimes the hardest thing as the leader is to stand up for yourself, to take a decision and believe in it. But
True.
the books help you with that, and of course they help you train your mind. So I would, while there are plenty of other things I can tell you in my um, in the depth of books that I have found, the maturity and the wisdom, but I would say my top two would be the ability to train your mind. It's almost like meditation,
Right.
and the ability to be able to look for experiences that are
Hmm.
beyond what you could gather. Like there's a book called Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, and it's like a collection of the best examples of what titans do to be successful. Like it's like I would say that book is worth gold. You
Hmm.
get you get like you can how others
Hmm.
use meditation or they use books, and that's like very very profound for me, and I would say that helped me evolve as a leader.
Fantastic. I think that's a very lovely answer. I could relate to that Michelle Obama story that you said, because when you read such books, you see a character there and you can relate. And what happens is you sometimes feel that, "Acha, am I the only person going through all that rut in my life and everybody's having a lovely, holy life?" And then you figure out, no, no, we have a Michelle Obama there, we have a Rajiv Narayan here, we have somebody else there who have gone through the similar ups and downs. Not bad. I'm not all alone. I'm not that Martian in that planet. I'm pretty much on planet Earth with all characters similar to me.
Rajiv, she found a career and then she fell in love with Barack, and she realized that he had a purpose in his life, but she did not. And she left everything she was doing to look for her purpose.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about my story of purpose soon, but I could just so be like, I'm not the only one who got my career wrong. Like, I'm not the only one who got it wrong.
All of us have.
Yeah, so it's some of those things. I must admit that we believe we are all creative and innovative, but books can give us so many ideas of innovating, whether it's with your team, whether it's just in your own career. How do they innovate to land somewhere else than where they were? So I just think that's really, really helpful and important.
Fantastic, fantastic. I just love that way you said that. So the book that you're picking up today is a fabulous book.
Yes.
Drive by Daniel Pink, and one of the super books that had made a great impact in the world of literature, the world of management, self-help books. Why this particular book has been one of the very inspiring ones for you?
Yeah. I can only tell you from my own career, I felt that our professional careers or our evolution as leaders is a journey of becoming better with every year.
True.
It's a constant journey, but there is something underneath it that makes that journey possible, because I have seen a lot of people get stagnated after a point. And I personally believe, Rajiv, that we rise up to our level of incompetence. If you stagnate and in your career, it means you stopped working hard enough to get out of that point, that level, to somewhere else. And that's really the evolution of your operating system. And I was looking for a reason why I have made some of my career decisions. Like, I was like, what drives people? Am I the limited edition? Like, what's going on over here? And a good friend of mine recommended that I should read Drive, and I was at that time in my love affair with books. I was like, okay, why not? And I had to read Drive a few times because it is a very deep book. It does leave a very strong impact, and sometimes it makes you feel very that you're not still there. I don't know if you felt that, but there are so many things over there which make you feel. There's in fact there's a quote over there that mastery is an asymptote. You don't really get to it. And it's like it all, and but the book entirely, the concept of a type I was very strong. In fact, I did the Daniel Pink test, which he has given. It's available online, and I was a type I, so it was very reassuring that some of the choices I made in life that made sense. Going back to the question you asked, it was impactful at the time when I read it, because I was really looking for answers on why I have done certain things in my career the way I have done it. What drives me? So that was important at that time. And I reread the book now that I lead a team to figure out how I can use, the same concepts of what motivates people to drive my team better. Because, being able, talking about having most productive teams is got to do with being able to motivate them to drive the right outcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a fabulous book. Even when I read it years back, I thought this was fantastic. Whether it is the type X to type I concept, or whether it is the autonomy mastery piece, I thought it was you could relate. You could relate to everything that Daniel is talking about in the book, and you could see applicable opportunities in your own workspace as you lead organizations, lead businesses, and you're managing P&L. You could relate to a lot. So I completely subscribe.
Yeah, most of us, I think in India probably still know the Maslow's law, and it came in 1954, and how it talks about having the basic needs to, the social needs to really reaching the nirvana, I think Daniel goes multiple levels below into that pyramid of Maslow's law. otherwise, I used to always relate everything as Maslow's law, like for a very, very long period of time. It's like, I don't need to get to what is my purpose in life. I just want to earn money for some time. But then Daniel actually helps break it down on why and what is important. How do you put it in perspective?
I know. Lovely, lovely. So let me take you a little deeper into a couple of concepts. And he talks about these two kinds of leaders called Type X and Type I. So I'm going to ask you, what is your take of why should leaders move from a Type X to Type I, and how did your movement happen? Were you also a Type X and became a Type I, or you're a born Type I?
I really don't think that too many people are born Type Is, like I don't think that happens, because a lot of it is about growth. And if you read the book, it also talks about humans growing from motivation 1.0 to motivation 3.0, which is really the Type Is, because when we were born, it was really about survival. So it was really about, when humans were created, it was about survival. And as I mentioned to you, even for the longest period of time, I thought career is all about making as much money as possible to first get a house, get a car, secure yourself. And to be honest, Rajiv, that's right. You
That's
have
required.
you can't do YouTube videos on lifting if you can't earn enough to buy those weights, like
Right.
first you need to secure yourself financially. So if anyone says I am completely like I'm not extrinsic at all, then you might as well, become a monk. It doesn't work that way. You have to have certain sense of achievement financially. It's very important. I will not deny that. But I do think that as you evolve as a leader, getting towards Type I is extremely important for holistic success. And I can tell you my own example. So I would say anyone is born a Type I, and maybe there are, but with everything that I have read, everyone has some extrinsic and social needs. And then you get to the point where you're really talking about, hey, what do I want to be a master of, and what is the purpose in my life? So I do recommend every leader should focus on becoming a Type I, but I believe that it's a gradual process of growth.
Absolutely. I mean, it's we keep moving from maturity level 1 to level 2 to level 3 as we grow, right? It's that's when we realize, acha, there is something called an I also in life.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I remember when I started my career, my first goal was मुझे जाके वो Yamaha bike I have to buy with my first salary. Today when I look back, shit, how stupid was I? But that was the biggest driver, because my dad said, I won't buy you a bike, you drive my scooter that I have. You figure out with your own salary. So my biggest drive was first salary, I'll go and pick up a bike. And I straight away went to the showroom and picked up a bike. Today, does it matter? It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like I still remember when my first salary and my first job was Infosys in Bangalore. I still remember buying nothing for myself but a diamond to give to my mother, because that was like that would give me the maximum happiness, that if she is happy. So again, but it was material. It was still an object which I gave. So going back to the evolution, if today someone tells me, like, if my mother's birthday is about to come, but I actually will not give her anything materialistic. I believe in giving more experiences. So I think we evolve over a period of time, and that is the truth, Rajiv.
Beautifully said. I think that's exactly what the book takes you through. Guys, all of you should definitely go and read this book. And Kanika is absolutely right in saying that it helps you to evolve and become the better version of you.
Yeah.
All right. So that takes me to the next very interesting three elements, which I thought was beautifully. I mean, I always knew these words individually, but I think the way Daniel tied it was marvelous. So simple, but so profound. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose as three words. We know English, we know the meaning, we are qualified, we're educated, hence we know the meaning. But his meaning is absolutely different. So tell me, how do you see these three elements towards the drive of an individual, and how did you use it in your own journey, Kanika?
Yeah. So Firstly, Rajiv, this is an excellent question. I must tell you, I've read the book a few times, but I never thought someone would ask me this question because it did make me do some soul searching. Um, the three concepts, as you rightly said, they're very beautiful, and I think the way he puts it together, which is autonomy is about uh, being autonomous, but there are four T's he talks about. He talks about the task, he talks about team, he talks about technique, and he talks about, I think I'm missing the fourth one, the time. Time. And a lot of times in the work context, if you ask anyone today, people have opinions on this. You know, there are some who don't want their time to be monitored, but for some, it is absolutely okay if you monitor my time. When it comes to technique, there are some who are happy with a process that is given to them, but then there are others who would want to do things their way.
Yeah.
The most important thing about this concept, which I'm inferring from the book, is, irrespective of how you treat the four T's, there is an important word of accountability that is very important in being autonomous. So I just want to address that bit first, because a lot of people, I've met a lot of youngsters now, I hire people in my team, and people, I want autonomy in my job. I don't want anyone to manage my time. I don't want anyone to tell me how I do things. Agile teams and scrum teams, it's all about, I'll do my thinking, you don't question me. Fine, we won't question you, but don't forget the fact that we are all accountable towards a goal. So that's like one very beautiful thing he talks about. Now, I do want to, on the second part of your question on mastery and purpose, I do want to tell you my personal journey around it. After I did my MBA from Indian School of Business, I landed into a sales job, and I was an engineer, working in Infosys, doing a lot of things, but I had never experienced what selling was about. And I loved what I was doing because I worked for one of the best companies in the world, and I loved everything around me, but I could never connect how this is going to add up to my purpose. And I constantly kept asking myself that question a million times. I'll tell you the answer today. I evolved from, of course, doing different sales role to not thinking of selling as selling anymore. I look at selling as a way of creating impact for a customer.
Beautiful.
I am creating impact, high impact to an organization by selling a technology, or by implementing a technology that makes them change the way they do things today. I have created high impact. And I found my purpose in that. I found fulfillment in getting people who were making these changes succeed and the organization succeed. So now, today, after 15 years, if someone comes and tells me, what is the price of what you sell? My answer is, I can't tell you till you tell me what is the problem you are trying to solve. Yeah. Because I am not a sales, I'm not selling anything to you. I'm trying to solve a problem. So if you don't have a problem, I don't have a solution for you. And that change, right, Rajiv?
Yeah.
It constantly reassured a lot of things back into me. I'm not selling for no reason. I am selling because when I get good at it, I create high impact in organizations that create high impact to people. And that is who I am. I am a growth driver that changes organizations using technology.
Right.
And that made it so much more simpler in my life to be able to then see, okay, what do I need to get better at to achieve my purpose? But this did not come as like, oh, it's sweet, I got it. It comes when you continue to challenge yourself, when you don't get excited with the fact that, oh, after I sell, I get a bonus or a commission, and
True.
let's just look at the extrinsic value of the
Hmm.
money that you get. Oh, I sell because I will get a better salary.
Promotion
But
or
then you are going to very soon stop enjoying the journey unless you are a type X, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
unless you're a type X. But given I was a type I, Rajiv, it would have gotten really frustrating if all I cared about was the check in the end. Now, when I lose something or I win something, it really doesn't matter because everything is about finding the next person you can help.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that purpose is what is driving you so much, isn't it? And
Yeah,
because the purpose is driving you so much, you want to do everything the best for the customer, solve every problem for the customer. So you try to gain mastery over knowledge, you try to get mastery over the solutions you're offering, so that they
exactly.
don't have any alternative to go to, but come to Applitools and come to you and say, boss, you're the best person for me, right? That,
Just a simple switch even helped me make my own team understand why their jobs are important. So think
yeah,
about a guy who is in customer support.
yeah,
All he's doing is looking at an issue that comes to him and solving it. How do you think he feels his purpose? Like how do you help him realize his purpose? But the moment you change the purpose of the entire team to impact and help customers, everyone can see the connect. Everyone can see I am helping the largest bank in Australia become highly automated by using Applitools. And that is going to help them save like $500,000, and it's going to make that money go into more innovation. So now you've connected yourself with some tangible impact than just the salary that you took out of what you sold.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, which is also the why inner circle of start with why of Simon Sinek, right? As long as that why is very clear in your head, then your how and what anyway will fall its own space where it needs to fall into, right? Such a lovely one. Such a lovely one.
Yeah. This again something that I continuously tell a lot of people who are into technology that stop telling the features of the technology.
Yeah.
No one cares about that. Why is that important? Is what people care about, and I think everything then goes back to how do you think about things.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a lovely story that you gave me. Thank you for sharing that with all the budding leaders. It's important, Kanika, because uh, what would be good for the budding leaders is if some of them are in that X of theirs and probably one leg in X and one leg in I, and they think that I will reach an I when I'm 40 plus, they could probably shorten it and become the I early, which will help them to find their own purpose and mastery early in life, isn't it? If we took,
You
let's
know,
say, 6 years, they could probably reach it in 4 years, which is a good thing for them.
absolutely. And there's a book called Range. It's I think it's written by David Epstein, and it talks about um, doing a range of things earlier in your life versus picking one thing and doing that maybe from the age of 3. Like Tiger Woods started playing golf from the age of 3.
Yeah,
But on the contrary, Roger Federer played all different sports before he started playing tennis.
yeah.
And it really talks about how you do things differently to then get to mastery. And the point I'm making is I think a lot of budding leaders would get comfortable with where they have landed and maybe
Mm,
still doesn't connect to a purpose, but
mm.
they try and convince themselves that that's the purpose. And one of the things that the book constantly even tells about, and we'll talk about it in the subsequent questions, but it's about challenging yourself,
Yeah.
on where you're going. Am I really reaching my purpose? Is this really my purpose? Because if you don't have that reflection, you could end up somewhere which is really not what you want it to be or where you should be.
True, true, true. Lovely. I like that one. I like that one. It's not about the convenience, but very clear that is this the purpose that you need to ask. Very right. So tell me on this beautiful thing that Daniel talks about. And he says it's important for all of us to keep taking the tests intermittently and the flow test. So why is it important? Why would you recommend that to the budding leaders as well, Kanika?
You know, let's talk about the most common source of frustration in a workplace.
Boss.
Well, the boss, let's say, but it's the frequent mismatch of what people want to do versus what they pick as a career. Like I told you,
Yeah.
in my scenario, I chose sales as a profession, but that's not what I really wanted to do. So the flow test is really important to assess if
Mm.
you are in the flow of what you do.
Mm.
You know how it is. You take
Yeah.
40 different
Yeah.
times in different timestamps. You check on yourself whether it still answers that one question. And what is that one question? What are you trying to do? Where is this going? So, when you do a lot of random things, we all work in multidisciplinary environments and we are
True.
always
True.
doing like multiple things.
A lot of
We
stuff.
get so absorbed with what we're doing that sometimes it just becomes, yeah, I went and I did my job. But the flow test is important because you'll suddenly reach a point where after 5 years, you will be frustrated that
Mm.
what I did didn't match really what I wanted to do. And the
Yeah.
flow test allows you to check on that,
True. True.
allows you to check, hey, when I went and did a presentation to the CIO or the chief marketing officer representing Google, yeah, that felt great. But did it also feel great when I got the check and I didn't know what to do with it? Or did it still
Mm.
feel great when you didn't know how that really benefited the person? So it's always about, are you really exceeding
Mm.
your capabilities, or you're allowing your way of working to kind of take you in a direction where you shouldn't be going? And that's why the flow test is important.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think it's very, very important. Because through that test, as you rightly said, we go back to the earlier question, it probably helps us to find that purpose again and again, right? Is this the flow? Is this the flow? Or are we
Yeah,
are we are we in the wrong river going against the flow, or in a flow which we don't want to go at all?
you, you
Very
know
good.
you're spot on, and that's the essence of the flow. Are you bored with where you are? Are you really um, the motion that you see? A lot of people say, I love it, I am so busy. But in your being busy, are you able to connect to your overall purpose? Is a very important
I
question
know, I
you have
know,
to
I
ask
know,
yourself. Yeah.
I know, I
And
know.
with what you do, Rajiv, to do this, the initiative that you have taken, I'm so certain that you can stop at 40 times in a month and you will still know what your purpose is because
Yeah.
you're so connected. And again, the book talks about this. The book says you don't really have to taste what or monitor a chef to see how he is cooking. You can look into his eyes
Yeah.
and know whether he's enjoying what he's cooking or not.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's just
Absolutely.
about looking into your own eyes and
Yeah,
asking yourself, does it,
I agree.
am I in the flow?
I agree. I agree. Once, I don't know if you have read this book, The Flow.
I have.
Uh, if you have not, you should read the book. It's called The Flow by the author called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Okay, just go to Google, called The Flow. Okay, he talks
Oh,
about multiple stages in a person's life, and he says flow is that particular spot in life where ecstasy, energy, enthusiasm, willingness to do something all just gets merged into one, and you just jump off the bed at 2 a.m., you jump off the bed at 12 p.m., you jump off the bed any part of the day without any definition of time, space, and any physicality, and you want to do because you just love doing that. And then
yeah.
when you
I
do,
think to some
yeah,
extent, even this, the book talks about it. It says, what makes you get up at any point in time so excited, and get going?
yeah,
That's really what flow
yeah,
is all
yeah,
about.
yeah. I agree, because you know what, Kanika, in the last couple of weeks or months of COVID, I had a tremendous insight, and I'll share this with you. Thanks for making me think and making me share that. I live in a community which has got people from automobile industry, they've got IT geeks, multiple guys, and there are two, three of them are entrepreneurs like me. All of them are going through this morning blues, sit on the call again. Oh, again, I've got a discussion. And I'm the only happy going guy in the community, walking off to my work, enjoying work and coming back and say, and they're envious about the fact that shit, but sometimes shows some expression of, oh shit, I'm doing the same stuff again. I'm bored of it. I said, I can't because I'm not. And as an entrepreneur, I'm all the more enjoying it.
I can relate to you, and B, I can tell you that what you're, this is the difference in, you know, being able to take the flow test and say, hey, listen, I'm really not enjoying what I'm doing, and then
Yeah.
taking the right step to move on
Yeah.
before you reach a point where it is, it's
Too
either
late.
too late, either it is too late, or you're suffering from boredom,
Yeah.
and you can't really do much about it. So
I
I
agree.
definitely compliment every entrepreneur on taking that plunge. But again, that everyone takes the plunge for different reasons,
True.
and that all goes back to the drive.
Yeah.
Taking the plunge for money is absolutely fine, and taking the plunge for the greater good of humanity is also fine. But it's again goes back primarily to what drives an individual to know
Absolutely.
that I'm committing to something where I have to wake up at 2 a.m. and address something, and I might not have the luxury to sleep peacefully for 8 hours at night.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Superb. Let's get to the next one. Uh, Daniel talks about 9 tips to improve your company. All of them are very, very good. So, cutting the long story short, I'm going to ask you to pick 2 that you completely relate with because you have been improving Applitools as a front end person leading the business. What are those 2 that you applied? And what would be your advice to the budding young minds?
Yeah. And especially in a startup, this is very important. I'm sure
Correct.
it's important in every organization. But one of the things that Daniel talks about is setting up the organization for intrinsic motivation, you
Mm.
know, where you don't have to, in a startup, even I am an individual contributor. As much as I'm a
Mm.
manager, I have like 20 things to do. No one's sitting idle in a startup. You
Yeah,
understand, right?
yeah,
No
yeah,
one's sitting idle. I'm not checking, and especially in COVID, I'm not checking with everyone in my team, or I can't even see them now to
yeah.
know what they're doing. How do you set it up for intrinsic motivation that everyone in the team works the way you do, or you expect that the team should for
Yeah,
a high growth startup to grow? And
true.
I can't tell you, Rajiv, how proud I am. And it has taken iterations because you firstly you have to get the right set of people, and
Correct.
have to understand their motivations. But the most important thing is creating clear goals for the team, having a very open dialogue on communication on who's doing, like we do like a stand up every morning.
Mm.
And in the stand up, everyone discusses what they're going to do in the day, including myself.
Mm.
So while we can do whatever we want to in the day, but we have accountability to close that task, and
Correct.
we are intrinsically motivated to do that. Now you can do it in 4 hours and sleep for the remaining 8. Typically, people who don't do that, they will finish and they will pick up something for the next day. So you give them the autonomy, you
Right.
have clear goals, and you are open. So
Mm.
open that it's not about I'm the boss and I don't need to tell people what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
commit, I will do 3 meetings, and then the next morning I need to report whether I did the 3 meetings or not.
Mm.
So that's like the thing that I'm most proud of. And the second thing that Daniel talks about is the principle, the pronoun test, no, Ricci's
Mm.
pronoun test, which he
Mm.
look for the we.
Mm.
In every email communication, whether it is to the customer, whether it is within the team, I always look for when someone's trying to use the I,
Right.
or the they over the we. Because honestly, as a small team that is supporting like multiple customers in a very challenging region like Asia Pacific, where we have customers in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, China, Japan, India. It's a very high volatile environment. And in
Mm.
that environment, if everyone starts using I, this is my job, this is how I do it, we will never set ourselves up for success. So
Yeah.
I would advocate setting up an intrinsically motivated team and being able to pick the we and ensure that your team succeeds for we and not the I. But there's something that I think most organizations have started doing, which is the 20% time concept for innovation. We do that as well. So every week, 20% of the time, the team is actually devoting to anything that they want. And I don't know if you've seen my LinkedIn post, but I have the most beautiful content created by my team in that 20% time. So they pick up any technology and they talk about it, and they will integrate it with Applitools, and they will create videos about it, which actually have helped the customers understand our value over and above what we do. So, give them the autonomy, give them the 20% time. They love it as well. And then keep it an open channel. That's really what I would advocate for.
Super. I think these two are the key among the other ones that Daniel talks about. I think it's very important also for all the listening leaders here, Kanika, because that intrinsic motivation you spoke about is so fundamental, right? That alone can get that flow in the individual, in the team, in the organization, right? Because one of the biggest challenges I've seen in startup, and I've worked with a couple of startups in setting them up for success, is the founder and the co-founders have something in their head, and they struggle and baffle to translate that into the next level of people. And they even more struggle and baffle around to figure out how do I take it to the second level. I'm like, gosh, and the founder comes in and says, Rajiv, ye dono level ko mere jaise sochne mein majboor kar do. I'm done. I'll pay you what you ask me for. I'm like, itna agar aasan hota, life would have been easy.
Rajiv, it is the hardest challenge. And this whole intrinsic motivation is the answer. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
And of course, you need to find people who can be intrinsically motivated. There are some people who are just not intrinsically motivated. And startups, for anyone watching the video, it's, you may find it's like anyone working for a corporate, I will join a startup, survive there 6 months and see if you're really built for a startup.
I'll give you Paramveer Chakra.
We talk about dog years. So I've done like 3 years in Applitools now, and we say it's like 30 years, so it's like in another 1 year I will have to retire.
You're right. You need to push yourself so much. The team has to be so strong, else you just cannot, and you need to relate to what the founder is relating with. If you can't, that gap is evidently going to be visible when you go and meet customers.
And this goes back to, how founders define purpose.
Yeah.
So if you can be a profit maximizer and you tell everyone, I need you to do your work because the company needs to make profit, or you become a purpose maximizer, as the book talks about, and tell them that if we do what we are we are claiming we will, it's going to help these many million people, help them associate with a purpose, whether it would be Make in India is a great purpose to get associated with, or it is growing the economy of India, or being able to provide and help security to people around you in COVID.
Sure.
But leaders need to know how to communicate. They can't go. I have had sales leaders, poor sales leaders, walk into meetings saying, this is terrible. We missed on the quarterly number. We are not going to make a commission. So what? It matters to a few, but after a point in time, what's the purpose of the company? And that's what startup founders really need to get better at articulating to their people.
I agree. I completely agree. It's fundamentally so important. Thank you for that. Let me take you to the powerful question that I'm going to ask you.
Yes.
From the learnings of this book, what are the 2 non-negotiable learnings that has driven you till here, that will continue driving further till you reach the grave? All of us have to reach one day, Kanika, so don't get offended there. So, what has driven you till here and what will drive you to the grave? Tell me those 2 non-negotiable learnings.
Yes.
That's first part of the question. The second part of the question is 2 laser sharp inputs to the budding leaders.
Okay. I probably will want to, let's see how I want to go about it. Let me first tell you the two learnings which I believe will stay with me always. Mastery is very painful, and
For sure.
it's, and I will tell you, um, it is very easy for me to become or get my team to behave as a sales function. It's very easy,
Mm.
but harder to always stick on the side of I want to help you,
Mm.
because the number of people who come to us and say, hey, can I see a demo of Applitools? And when we say, can you tell us why you want to see the demo? And then they get offended, are many, because they're like, it's your tool, you have to show it to us. And we're like, I really don't think that that's really how we roll. That's not
Mm.
how we. So the whole um, goal of mastering the fact that I want to create an impact
Right.
doesn't come without pain. It comes with a lot of sacrifice, like,
Mm.
and the whole journey. It's the number of hours you have to give to learning technologies, which will help your customers become successful. I have engineers in my team who have to every week learn a new framework or a technology which a prospect comes to us which they are
Mm.
using, and Applitools needs to work with it. And I
Mm.
can tell you the number of hours they spend to make everything work. It's
Yeah.
to make that happen, it's a painful journey. And the
Mm.
book talks about it, that you don't get to the level of mastery without putting in the pain or without putting in the work. That's an important learning. Second, I think I said right in the beginning, mastery is an asymptote. It's like
Mm.
it's a it's a, you will never get there. Just knowing that is it can be very frustrating, but it's a very powerful learning. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example from my personal life. You brought it up right in the beginning. I do weightlifting, and I started weightlifting a couple of years back. And it's not just strength weightlifting. I do Olympic weightlifting, which has a lot of technique involved. And
Mm.
I am blessed to have some really good coaches who have helped me. But honestly, it's like every time you think I got it, and you're
Mm.
like, oh no, there is like two more things to learn, and you're constantly chasing that journey. You ask anyone, if you go to Roger Federer, and he will tell you that there are still a few things in his game that he wants to improve. I am a very big fan of a weightlifter called Lu Zhaojiang. He's a Chinese weightlifter, and his lifts are like this, so beautiful. You just can just watch him forever. But you ask him, and he will tell you he has not reached mastery.
Mm.
A, it's painful. B, you don't get to it.
You don't get
Like, so that's like two really non-nego. You have to get anything out of the book, get that, because you can get all the peripherals. And I would say, if I have to tell budding leaders one thing that they should be doing, definitely, is they should be seeing what is it that they are mastering in their career.
Right.
I owe a lot to an individual like who was my when I worked for Google. Rajan Anandan was he was the head of Google India, and he told me one thing which I will always remember. He said, Kanika, Malinga does bowling, and he's thrown that ball so many times in his life, and he's become a master of it. That's what your career is about. It's about finding that ball that you can throw so many times that you become perfect, or you become a master. And I would tell any leader, find what is that skill that you want to become a master of, and be honest in the pursuit of that journey. Focus so ruthlessly, and prepare yourself mentally and physically that this won't be easy. And I think that would be my
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like that a lot, Kanika, because in a world where people talk about jack of all and pick up multiple trades, you do not have multiple trades, you may be lost in the crowd, those kind of perspectives that people have. I'm very happy to hear what you said, Kanika, because I have been an electrical engineer, worked in a transformer manufacturing company, went on to sales, was in banking industry, then figured out what I want to do. And today I'm doing something again and again and again, doing what I'm doing. I've had people coming and asking me, Rajiv, you design leadership interventions, you deliver leadership interventions. Are you not bored standing and delivering workshop? I say, I'm not. I can stand for 10 full days and deliver without getting tired. When I hit the bed, my feet starts aching. But next day morning, I'm again off. Good morning, 9 o'clock. Because I love doing that. And that's
Yeah.
something I'm trying to achieve and attain some kind of a mastery, right? I think you made it very clear for budding leaders that first they need to figure out what is that one thing they want to do. Get that flow in that bloody head to do that every time. And then go behind it like a beast or a madman or a mad woman. And then just do that again and again. And I love that Rajanandan's statement about throwing it again and
Yes.
again. I think, guys,
And,
because that Malinga, I think you're good at it.
Rajan, if I was very lucky to even work with him and be with him. He is an amazing leader, and his words have always meant a lot to me. And that's exactly what he said. He said, "Be Malinga who throws that ball, and when you become perfect in that, then you think about where you are. Don't worry about where you are till you get there."
Yeah. Eventually, mastery will take you where you want to reach, right?
Yeah, a lot of us, even I did, worried about, okay, how do I get to my goal? Your goal will eventually be right in front of you as long as you focus on
Beautiful.
your mastery, on your skills, and constantly do a flow test on, is this my purpose? And don't get driven by the extrinsic motivations, and find something more holistic. And one message I would definitely have for women, because I see very few women in technology selling, is if you struggle with the same challenge that I did, that why is this exciting? Why should it's not meaningful. Think about it this way, as someone who can convince probably the biggest banks in Australia to change the way they do testing today, I can tell you that that's my fulfillment. Not that they bought Applitools, but the fact that they changed the way they test. And now, instead of taking many days, they can finish a round of testing in minutes, is what gives me fulfillment.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Kanika. That was a lovely, lovely conversation. I would want to, on record, thank you once again for accepting the invitation, coming on board and speaking beautifully with me. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'm telling this because I was talking to all people from my fraternity. It's lovely to talk to somebody from the business, and the angle that you brought from this book of Daniel from business side was really interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
No, absolutely. I will also tell you on the recording that I have really enjoyed this, and I can't thank you enough.
Superb. So when I make my next trip to Australia for a client work or a holiday, and I land in Melbourne, I'll ping you up, and then we'll catch up.
We'll do the same interview again, where I will ask you, and I will say, okay, now that Rajiv is in Australia, let's reverse the questions, and we will ask Rajiv about it.
We can do that. We can do that. And in case Bangalore brings you back for work or any personal trip, you may ping.
Of course.
Yeah. We anyway connected on LinkedIn. So it's lovely talking with you, Kanika. You have a lovely time ahead. Bye bye. And all
we
the
will
best.
be in touch. Thank you. Thank you. We will be in touch. Bye.
Bye.